Uncomfortable with new guy's female bestie. Posting because I, 30-year-old female, have started seeing a guy, 33-year-old male, I really like, talking since November, dating for the last month. He's very open, straightforward, nice, funny, caring, etc. I've recently started getting a sickening feeling that his lesbian best friend is into him and he has no idea. When communicating this to him, he reassures me she 100% is not into him and they're just friends and it will never happen. I've never dated a guy with a female best friend, so I'm not sure if I'm just being insecure or jealous. A few things have led me to be uncomfortable with some aspects of their friendship. For example, the other day he asked me to remind him the name of the scary movie we watched the other night, and I immediately went on alert because I do not ever watch scary movies. I have nightmares bad, so I asked what girl he watched a movie with. Background: he has had multiple traumatic brain injuries and bad memory. He told me he forgot he watched it with his best friend, but then commented they were in her bed cuddled up because she was scared. I immediately told him that it was weird to cuddle with your best friend, and he tells me there is 100% not something happening, and she's a lesbian so she's not even interested. I told him I would never control his friendships, but if I have a boundary that is reasonable and makes me uncomfortable, I'd absolutely ask him to respect that, and for me cuddling in bed is extremely uncomfortable for me, and he said he understood and is not something that happens often. I also feel like I would have never known unless he made the mix-up on who he watched the movie with. I didn't realize they hung out to this extent. Fast forward to tonight. We have a great date night planned, and his best friend calls whining that he won't come, hang out with her, and says she came by his apartment 3 times that day, and he wasn't there. He was with me since he stayed the night before. He spent time reassuring her and made sure to say, "You know I love you," a few times to make her feel better. I thought it was super weird for her to come over 3 times to his apartment randomly and asked him again if he was 100% sure she wasn't interested, and if she had ever dated a guy before, and he said yes, she has, but she's lesbian, and that they've been friends for 2 years, and she's had ample opportunities to make a move, and hasn't. I told him I think if I met her I would feel more comfortable and less insecure about the situation, which he said would be great. He is very certain that they are platonic, and he wants to be with me. I just find some aspects of their friendship a little excessive compared to most people, and I'm wondering maybe she's just clingy, and I'm being insecure since we are new and I haven't met her. Am I being paranoid, or are some of these aspects odd? Is there anything I can do to further clarify the situation or create boundaries that are healthy? Anything to be aware of since I'm not familiar with a guy-girl best friend dynamic? Any insight would be helpful. I would say trust your gut feeling on this one. It seems like a red flag if he is constantly reassuring her and telling her he loves her during your dates. It definitely sounds like an obsessive behavior on her part, and setting boundaries with him in this situation would be crucial. It's not paranoid to feel that way, as it would make anyone uncomfortable and turn them off. The fact that she can't reach him 3 times in one day is definitely a bit overboard and not normal behavior. You deserve to be in a relationship where you don't constantly feel like a side piece. If he doesn't address this behavior and set healthy boundaries with his friend, you might have to consider finding someone else who respects your relationship more. Am I the antagonist for moving tables to get away from a creepy guy that has autism? Okay, so for full disclosure, I am female 15 and openly a lesbian, and he is male 16. I'll call him Greg, not his real name. So since 7th grade, this guy has had a crush on me and has asked me out multiple times, which I politely rejected him. I always try being friendly to him without leading him on. We were in costume crew for the play together, and he would constantly ask for my Snapchat even though I told him repeatedly I don't have one, which is true. Greg would make everyone at crew uncomfortable sometimes, like when he was talking about how he went to Hooters. Eventually he started sitting at me and my friend's lunch table, no real names, but I will call them Ariana female 15, Catherine female 14, Cooper female 16, and Noah female 16, Noah female 16, also with autism, along with Catherine's boyfriend and his friend, who I don't really know. It was weird the first day, but on the second day it was fine. He was just kind of there, he never really talked, just stared at me. On the third day he had asked for my number, which I lied and said I wasn't allowed to give out my number. I was growing more uncomfortable with him again, and Ariana told me he had done this with her and some of her other friends. She said the only way to get him to stop hitting on me was to just ignore him. At this point, my friends were concerned he would become physical with me, and decided to let him at our lunch table, just have him sitting closer to Catherine's boyfriend and his friends. So we got there. Cooper's friend Lily female 15 was there, sitting in the spot Greg would sit, and I heard Cooper say, "We should switch tables." I was like, okay, and everyone hurried to the new table, and it turned out we switched because Greg sat in Ariana's seat, physically sat next to Cooper and Noah before getting lunch. I realized this when I saw his jacket and bag, and when he came out with his lunch, and I saw the look on his face, I actually felt like such a loser, and like one of those mean girl stereotypes. I hadn't even realized what happened, but the rest of my friends did. Noah, my autistic friend, hadn't felt bad in the slightest and was planning on telling him off today, but my other friends felt like such dicks, especially when we realized we could have politely asked him to move out of Ariana's seat. Right now, he is sitting at a table with new girls, unfortunately started hitting on me again, and Cooper followed him on all socials. The worst part is he is genuinely nice, he is just a bit creepy. It's important to involve an adult in authority in situations like this. It doesn't matter if he is autistic or not. Repeatedly hitting on someone despite being told no is not okay. Talking to a trusted teacher can help handle this and hopefully involve his parents as well. It's important to protect yourself and maintain a comfortable environment for you and your friends. In the long run, this behavior cannot continue. As an autistic person yourself, you have every right to feel uncomfortable and not be subjected to it, regardless of his condition. Am I the antagonist for not attending my father's wedding? My father, 45 years old, and my mother, 40 years old, got divorced around 2 years ago. My father met a woman, we'll call her Amy, on a dating website months after the separation with my mother. At first, they seemed like a good fit. At first, Amy was polite and seemed interested in getting to know my brother, 17 years old, and my daughter, 4 years old. But over time, things became a bit off. Due to medical issues, Amy had to move in with them. It became clear that Amy did not care about my brother. She was inconsiderate, demeaned him, and did her best to play him down as a priority. It's her way or no way. Amy has also overtaken and trashed the family home, leaving my brother to either live with the mess or have to clean it himself. Now Amy and my father are getting married next week. I do not drive and have apologized to my father frequently for being a burden. He is adamant me and my daughter be there and found us a ride. Supposedly my aunt had been assigned this task. However, 2 days ago, my husband received a call from my aunt's husband, expressing that he believed it was unsafe for my daughter to attend. I found this odd as him and my aunt are still bringing all 4 of their children, and because he told my husband not to tell me he called. I didn't think much of it until last night. My brother has texted me multiple times to tell me he's been listening in on Amy and my father's arguments. Amy is adamant on my daughter not attending and is saying all these issues are my fault. My brother then told me my aunt was throwing a fit about being assigned to drive my daughter and I. That she didn't want to bring my daughter. She wanted to bring another family member we'll call Sarah. Sarah is older and lives alone, and my aunt mooches off her as much as she can. Sarah has offered to pay for a hotel room for my aunt and kids. The wedding is an hour from where we all live. It is 100% my aunt's business on who she wants to drive. I won't slight her for that. But the fact she had her husband call mine in an odd attempt to convince me not to bring my daughter just rubbed me the wrong way. My aunt then texted me this morning saying she won't drive my daughter. I said that's fine and told her not to worry about it, I'd figure it out myself. My husband and my mother are now telling me I just shouldn't go, and I agree. At this point, it feels like if my daughter and I do attend, it will just be awkward as there's a group now working against my daughter attending, when they know my father said her attendance is non-negotiable. On top of all this, I am currently 32 weeks pregnant with my second daughter, and the constant back and forth fighting and clear ulterior motives have had me worked up for days at this point. I want my dad to be happy. I don't think Amy will give him that. My brother has said if me and my daughter do not go, he won't either. I feel terrible, and I'm sitting here drafting a text to tell him I won't be coming, but a small part of me feels as if I'm in the wrong. Am I the antagonist? Your father and Amy sound unsafe and disrespectful, especially given your family history and your brother's situation. It sounds like they are not making you and your loved ones feel welcome at all. Follow your instincts and prioritize your own health and well-being, as well as that of your husband, daughter, and unborn child. Am I the antagonist for telling my husband that he stinks? My 42-year-old woman, husband, 41-year-old man, doesn't always take regular showers. He's a sweaty guy by nature and will often go days without showering. I have a very good sense of smell and he knows that. He doesn't deny that he needs showers and he has nothing against them. It's become a running joke, but it often bubbles up into a fight. We have 4 kids, 13-year-old girl, 9-year-old girl, 5-year-old boy, 5-month-old boy, and he's a stay-at-home dad. There is time for him to shower during the day. The kids even tell him that he stinks sometimes. I find that he showers when he's going to see other people or before he referees a sports game. It hurts that he doesn't shower for me, especially since he knows it's important to me. He thinks changing all his clothes, including his underwear, solves the problem. If I wash the sheets on the bed, I'll ask him to take a shower before he gets in the fresh bed. He'll agree but doesn't always follow through. He also doesn't brush his teeth regularly and relies on mouthwash and gum in its place. He hadn't been to the dentist in a while and then had 13 cavities. The dentist has him on deep cleans every 3 months. I suspect it's because the dentist knows the teeth don't get brushed. I try to be nice about it all and ask him about a shower before we leave the house together. Do you want to shower first, or should I jump in? That usually works, but we aren't always going somewhere. I'll ask him how long it's been since he's taken a shower to make him think about it. He'll usually acknowledge he needs one, but that doesn't mean he will do it. If all that doesn't work, sometimes I get frustrated and tell him that he stinks and needs a shower. Any way I do it, he often says that it hurts his feelings, and I make him feel bad about himself. He calls me mean, and sometimes I'll admit that I am mean about it, but definitely not all the time. It just seems like such an easy problem to fix. Am I the antagonist? Whoa, sounds like you've been dealing with a real winner. It's absolutely mind-blowing that someone would neglect basic hygiene and not take care of themselves like a grown adult. I can't imagine how you've put up with that kind of behavior, especially when it's his responsibility to take care of himself. The fact that he's okay with making you feel uncomfortable and unattracted to him is a huge red flag. Hopefully you can find someone who actually takes care of themselves and respects you enough to put in the effort. Am I the antagonist for expecting more than one bite of a meat cake I spent 4 hours preparing? My partner Pat and I have been living together for a few years. I am the more culinary inclined person, so if we are cooking something from scratch, I do most of it with Pat acting as my sous chef and cleaning helper. One of Pat's longtime coworkers recently accepted a new job offer and is leaving the office, so Pat and his coworkers decided to throw a goodbye party. Pat asked what kind of cake this coworker wanted, and they answered meat. So Pat decided to make him a meatloaf cake, frosted with mashed potatoes and adorned with bacon roses. I have to give Pat credit. This time, he picked a few recipes himself and I told him which ones were likely to work the best. He made the shopping list and bought the ingredients mostly on his own with only a little help from me. He did need help finding the ingredients we had at home, but I cook way more, so that is to be expected. The day before the party, he began cooking the meatloaf and potatoes, not realizing it would take 3-4 hours to get everything done. I didn't want him up until midnight on a work night, so I jumped in to help. I did all the measuring and chopping for the meatloaf and made the potatoes and bacon roses for him. I used to decorate fancy birthday cakes as a hobby, so when the meatloaf came out of the oven I stayed up to frost it with the mashed potatoes. I didn't have work the next day and the kitchen was kind of a wreck. Neither of us are clean as you go types lol, so I took care of that as well. While cooking, the meatloaf smelled absolutely divine, and I commented on how I wish I could have some. Pat got confused at the butcher's and purchased 3 pounds of ground meat thinking 1 pound was 12 ounces, not 16 ounces. He decided to scale up the recipe and cook it all, so we had a huge amount of meatloaf. His department has 7 people, all of whom were bringing food, so Pat was confident there would be leftovers. I asked him if he could please make a point to bring me home a slice of the meatloaf if there were any leftovers. I don't eat beef often on account of a medical issue, but spending 4 hours in the kitchen, not counting shopping and cleaning, really made me crave it. Apparently the meatloaf cake was a big hit. Delightfully, Pat came home with 2 slices. I had already eaten by the time he got home, so I declined my portion that evening, but was excited to have it for lunch the next day. Pat gave me 1 bite to taste, and it was lovely. The next day came and I went to eat my slice, and it was nowhere to be found. I asked Pat where it was. He said since I had declined my portion the night before, I must not want any, so he ate both slices. I know it's just a slice of meatloaf, a food that is not a treat by most American standards, and the whole thing was a gift for someone else. Nevertheless, I'm sad that I only got a single bite of something I spent hours preparing. Am I the one in the wrong for expecting a slice? Pat thinks I'm being unreasonable and acting entitled to someone else's gift. It's not unreasonable to expect someone to follow through on a simple request, like saving you a slice of meatloaf. It's common courtesy and shows basic consideration. Just like the Twix incident, Pat should have respected your initial request instead of assuming your intentions. You're not in the wrong for feeling disappointed in his actions. My girlfriend claims she didn't cheat on me while in bed with another guy. In summary, I've discovered some pretty unfortunate circumstances, yet my partner is adamant and continuously tells me that they didn't cheat. Their behavior, they argue, does not constitute cheating. My partner and I have been together for a little over 2.5 years. About a year and a half ago, we celebrated our 1-year anniversary. A month after, my partner took a trip with their friends out of state. One night during the trip, they and their friends hung out at a person's house with several other individuals. That night, they texted me, saying they were sober, just killing time and hanging out in the living room with another person who was in a relationship, and everything was fine. When they came home, their behavior was suspicious. They hid their phone from me, even when I tried to look for it, suspecting something was off, and I asked to see their phone. They had deleted texts and hid it from me, refusing to show me anything. At that time, they claimed their friends were involved with some of the other people, and that there were videos in a group chat of those individuals being intimate with those people. They said they didn't want me to see that, which was their excuse for having deleted the texts and hiding their phone. Because I trusted them and had no other evidence to believe otherwise, I believed them and let it go. For the next year and a half, I consistently wondered what happened. I recently came across some information that may have potentially revealed what actually happened that night. A few weeks ago, a year and a half after the event, I confronted them with information that they had been with a person that night. They denied it incessantly. After about 3 hours on the phone, I got them to first admit that they and this person just went into a room together for a few minutes where the person confessed their feelings for them while sitting on the edge of the bed. They alleged that they shut it down and walked out immediately. I knew this was a lie. I continued to press them. They eventually admit that they got tired, and while they were sitting on the edge of the bed, they crawled into the bed to lay down. At which point the person tried to cuddle them. They insist that nothing happened and that the person tried to put their hands on them. They immediately turned it down and walked away. Naturally, because this was a piecemeal admission, where the story changed several times, and each time a new admission came out it was completely different and contradicted the last, I was suspicious. When I threatened to reach out to one of the people who was there, they threatened to retaliate against me and attempt to ruin my life. I believe their exact words were, "You will regret this." They claimed that all of these people hated them now, and that they would make things up about them. They are still adamant to this day that nothing happened. They say what they did was messed up and that they shouldn't have lied about it over the last year and a half. Not wanting to lose them, I decided to forgive them. Deep down, I do believe that more happened. It's very difficult to believe that two people would have gone into a room drunk while all of their friends were hooking up with other people there that night, and they just laid there and did nothing at all. While I took them back, we took a few weeks apart, while I decided what I wanted to do after discovering the underlying issue and the dishonesty that followed. During this time, I confided in some of my friends about the situation, letting them know that they had essentially betrayed me and breached my trust. But frankly, I felt too embarrassed to reveal to them the full details first, because I knew that the details they had admitted to were embarrassing enough. I felt embarrassed that this person had picked another person over me and laid in bed with them. Second was because I knew that if I told anyone, they would not believe and have the same suspicions that I had, essentially thinking that I am a fool for taking them back. Nevertheless, here we are. I'm still dealing with some of the repercussions from their dishonesty. Despite having taken them back, I'm still not ready to tell my friends who I disclosed the betrayal to, because I'm nervous that they will judge me. At times, I don't want to spend time with my partner out of fear of having to reveal to my friends where I am. My partner gets frustrated by this, saying that I'm not putting enough effort into the relationship and I should be prioritizing them more. I explain to them that these are repercussions of their wrongdoings. However, whenever I do so, they incessantly claim that their actions were not cheating. Even worse, at times they'll even say things like, "I think you cheated on me too." However, when I ask them why they believe that and what evidence they have, they cannot produce anything. I think they are manipulating me, and I believe they actually cheated on me. I'm not sure what to do. Any advice? I didn't have to read past the first paragraph. She 100% cheated. This is a prime example of why it's important to avoid sketchy situations and have good boundaries. Whether she cheated or not, you clearly don't trust her, so it's over. No matter what happened that night, it literally does not matter anymore. This relationship is unhealthy and should be over because there is no trust left on either side. She lied to you for a year and a half, then trickle-truthed you only when absolutely forced to under threat of bringing other people into the argument. There is no healthy relationship without trust, and the current relationship is toxic, full of resentment and contempt on both sides, and absolutely will not get better. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.